Summertime in Port Galia is one of my favourite times in our seaside village. The warm sun brings out the chalk ices, the cool sea invites the townsfolk to come and swim in its blue-green waters, and the evenings drag along so as to give extra time for all sorts of outdoor fun and games. But perhaps the best part of summer in Port Galia, in my opinion, is the rock pooling. When the weather is dry, the water is still, and the tide is out, the rock pools are clear as glass and you can see all kinds of things in the cracks and crevices of the rocks at Galia Bay. And I can remember a day in July when it was just like that. And Lester and I decided to go out and go rock pooling that morning. We wanted to start early to catch low tide, and we were both gathering some food in the kitchen when our auntie walked in her floral dressing gown with a yawn.
Well, you two are up early for a Saturday,
she said with a smile.
Not up to any mischief, I hope?
Of course not,
Lester replied, pulling a jar of ginger nuts off the shelf and taking out a handful.
We're going rock pooling. The weather's simply fine for it, and there's barely a breeze at all.
Yes, I agreed, stashing the ginger nuts in a paper bag and putting them in my rucksack. We figured it's been so long since we both went rock pooling, with Lester working at the butcher's and me being so busy with school, that we'd go today, as neither of us have anything else to do. Is that all right with you, Auntie Patsy?
Well,
she said, in a tone that neither Lester or I liked.
I have to admit I was counting on you both to help me with some garden work this morning. With your uncle away for his sister's birthday in London, I could use a few strong pairs of hands to cut the weeds back and mow the lawn. But if you can promise me you'll help me tomorrow after church, I'll let you go rock pooling today instead. How does that sound?
Sounds ace to me. Thanks, Auntie, you're a real brick.
Yes, thank you, Auntie. You're a brick.
What is it with you youngsters calling each other bricks? It is a very peculiar thing to say about each other, I think. What's so special about a brick?
Oh, it means you're reliable. You know, like a brick. Anyway, we'll just finish gathering our things and head off. And don't worry about making us lunch. We've got ginger nuts, a flask of tea and some cheese and pickle sandwiches to keep us going. We want to make the most of this good weather before the tide comes in again and fills the pools.
Do you not want any breakfast? I was going to make pancakes, but if you're not hanging around, I'll just boil myself an egg and...
Oh, no! I butt in, immediately thinking of our auntie's superb pancakes. I think we can wait just a little before we set off. Don't you think, Lester?
Oh, I suppose we could, since you're going to make them anyway. I mean, if it's not too much trouble, and...
Oh, go on and tell me. You love my pancakes, and you can't think of missing out rather than giving me all that waffle, will you?
Yes, you're right.
Lester blushed with a smile.
Your pancakes are top-notch. Thanks, Auntie.
You're welcome. Now, go and sit down, and I'll have them made for you in around 10 minutes, all right?
All right, thanks.
You know, I used to be a rock pooler in my day, and so did your uncle.
No way, not Uncle Rodney. I can't imagine him going out looking for shells.
Oh no, we were quite the pair, your uncle and I. He proposed to me while we were rock pooling, and I lost the engagement ring out on the rocks. I can't believe I haven't told you this before.
You mean to say it could still be out there?
Oh, believe you me, we looked for it. For months we were back to see if we could find it, but we never did. We've resigned ourselves to the fact that it got swept away and is somewhere out in the ocean. We'd be wasting our time searching for it now.
Could we look for it anyway?
Yes, could we?
I suppose you could, but I very much doubt if you would find it. We've been through a whole war since then, and goodness knows what else. You'll be wasting your time.
Maybe that's so, but we'd like to look anyway, if you don't mind, Auntie.
Yes, really we would. Whereabouts exactly did you lose it?
Well, if I recall correctly, we were in a big patch of rock pools to the left side of Galia Bay, hidden behind a great big rock.
Ah, you're probably talking about Gull Rock. It's always covered in those blasted birds.
Yes, that could be where I lost it, but don't get your hopes set on finding it. As I said, it's been a long time now, and it could be anywhere.
Well, I have to admit, that didn't deter me or Lester one bit. We already had our hearts set on finding that ring, and so after we finished 2 servings of pancakes with lemon and sugar, I slipped on my rucksack and we both headed out the door at great pace to Galia Bay. When we got there, the tide was going out and Gull Rock stood proudly, all covered in seagulls as usual. We walked behind it, and where the waves were being drawn back into the sea, a whole host of rock pools were being formed in all different sizes. It was like a field of slippery, slimy, seaweed-covered rocks, and Lester and I looked at each other with a gulp.
There's a lot of ground to cover if we want to search every possible place before the tide comes back in again. We'd best get started. Have you got your net?
Of course. But where do we begin? He said, surveying the vast expanse of little pools of salt water.
I suggest we both take one pool at a time. I'll start on the far end and you start from here, and we'll meet in the middle so as to leave no stone unturned.
Good idea. Can we still collect shells for our collection?
Oh, of course. But don't forget the goal. We're trying to find the ring, remember?
Yes, I don't want to leave without it. And so, with buckets and nets in hand, Lester hopped his way over the pools in his Wellingtons to begin searching on one end, and I got to work on mine. For an hour or so, we turned over stones and pebbles and looked in the cracks and crevices of the rock pools, finding so many different kinds of things. We found great big shells with swirly tops that looked like ice creams called whelks, and tiny little shells about the size of a fingernail called cowries. But no ring could be found anywhere yet. It was most frustrating, as we'd come there feeling a great anticipation that one of us would yell out in excitement and see the glint of silver shining in the water. But nothing. Absolutely squat. And soon, after more failed attempts to find it, we stopped for a break to tuck into our sandwiches, ginger nuts and flask of tea, as we sat and watched the waves lap gently in the distance.
Well,
Lester said, dunking his biscuit in his tea.
so far no joy whatsoever with finding that ring. Eh, William?
I know. What a blasted shame. Usually I'd be jolly pleased with so many nice shells, but it doesn't give me the same thrill knowing we could be going home without Auntie Patsy's ring.
But you know, she wasn't expecting us to find it. Maybe we shouldn't have got our hopes up so high. After all, she's right. There's been a whole war on since then, and her ring could be at the bottom of the sea for all we know.
No, we will find it. We just have to keep looking.
I admire your tenacity, William, but really, it may not even be anywhere near where we're looking.
But it could be. It might only be a few feet away, just crammed in a crevice, waiting to be found again. We have to try again. Here, have my spare ginger nut. The tide's beginning to creep in again, and I don't want to leave until I know I've looked everywhere. Sliding off the rock we were sitting on, my feet landed on the sand with a thud, and I grabbed my net and bucket once again and began searching like mad for the missing ring. My brother finished his food and then began to join me, even though he was a little incredulous about whether there was even a point in looking anymore. My hands were getting all wrinkly from the seawater, and I had seaweed sticking to my wellies like the limpets on my uncle's boat. I had turned over so many stones and fished around in so many places. I was beginning to wonder if I was searching the same rock pools over and over again. And to make matters worse, the waves are beginning to get closer and closer to us, and the pools that we had searched only moments before were now once again one with the incoming ocean. Lester soon said we should give it up and head home, and as much as I didn't want to, I relented and put all the shells and things into my rucksack, and we made our way back up the cliff path towards home. On our way up, we spotted Reverend Harley reading his Bible on a bench overlooking the sea, and he beckoned us over with his ever-consistent warm smile.
Hello, lads. How are you two doing on this fine afternoon?
I'd be doing better if it was a fine afternoon, Reverend.
Oh dear, what's the matter?
He's upset because we couldn't find something we're looking for.
I often speak to people who have that problem, you know. That's why they come to church.
No, it's not that sort of problem, Reverend Patron. We're looking for an engagement ring.
Oh, we see. A matter of romance, is it, lads?
Goodness, no. It's my auntie's ring. She lost it many, many years ago behind Gull Rock, and we went to see if we could find it. But no matter how much we looked, we couldn't see it anywhere.
Well, I don't mean to be outspoken here, but your dear auntie's engagement must have been quite a long time ago, and that ring could very well be gone by now, lads.
I know, I did tell William that, but understandably, we both wanted to surprise our auntie by finding it.
And that's very sweet of you both. Certainly it is. But if it's not there, it's not there. And sadly, there's no you or I can do about it, is there?
No, sadly there isn't.
But, you know what?
What?
Your auntie will be very grateful that you looked for it, even though you didn't find it. The fact you went out there and searched all you could will mean a lot to her, I'm sure. Can you see that?
Yes, I reckon you're right.
Now, I picked up these currant buns from the village, and me, Reverend Harley, have got 2 spare. And as much as I could eat them all by myself, and I could, I'm not sure my dear wife would particularly appreciate me wolfing a lot. So how's about you both do me a favour and take these away from me, so as to avoid any unneeded temptation?
Oh, well, if it would be of assistance to you, I think we could oblige, don't you, Lester?
Oh yes, I reckon we could. Thank you, Reverend Harley.
Oh no, thank you. Now I best let you two both get home. Have a good day, all right?
All right. We'll see you on Sunday, Reverend.
Glad to hear it.
So, indulging ourselves in the last of the currant buns, we both made our way home and opened the front door to find our Auntie Patsy talking on the telephone. She nodded at us both as we came in, and I dropped my rucksack on the ground, and then we both washed our hands. We could hear the talking on the other end of the call, and Auntie Patsy put it down with a smile on her face.
That was your uncle.
Oh, how is he? Is he enjoying London?
No, not really. You know how he is about the city. But he's got to his sisters now, so hopefully he will brighten up a little with her to keep him company. How did your rock pooling adventures go?
We got plenty of shells and things, but no ring. I'm sorry, Auntie.
Don't be sorry, love. That was a long shot. How's about showing me what you found? I seem to recall we got some real beauties when we'd go behind Gull Rock.
All right, then. Let me get them at my bag. I picked up my rucksack and pulled out several handfuls of different shaped shells and stones and laid them out on the kitchen table. We did get a really good haul, and I began to brighten up myself when I saw some of the amazing colours and variations we collected. I picked up one of the great big whelks and handed it to my auntie to look at. She examined it with a smile and then handed it back to me.
That's a pretty one for sure. Have you done the telephone test?
Telephone test? What's that?
Oh, it's simple. You put the open part to your ear, like a telephone. And if you can hear the ocean waves lapping gently, you've got a real special shell.
No fooling?
No fooling. Give it a go, William.
All right, then. I put it to my ear and listened as hard as I could, but I couldn't hear a thing. I can't hear it.
Try giving it a shake. Maybe it's a little broken.
I did what my auntie said and shook it side to side and up and down, and much to my surprise, I did hear something. But it didn't sound like the sea. It sounded more like a baby rattle.
It's not supposed to sound like that.
It sounds like something's in it.
I shook it harder and harder until all of a sudden something shot out of it like a bullet and bounced off the table and rolled onto the floor. We all looked at where it went to see what it was, and you won't believe what we saw.
Well, flip my fillet. It's a ring.
A ring?
I was getting rather excited as Lester picked it up and handed it to my aunt, and I saw that indeed it was a shining silver ring. My auntie looked at it in disbelief, and then looked at us both with widened eyes.
Well, I'll be. It's my ring.
Oh, don't joke, auntie. Is it really your ring? Is it really?
Yes, do you know for certain it's yours?
Yes, I do. It still has the same faint engraving on the inside. P and R. See?
I looked at it closely, and I could indeed see the engraving was there. It had been worn down a little, but it was without a doubt my auntie's ring.
You mean to say we did find your ring after all, Auntie?
Yes, you did. I don't quite believe it. I don't know how on earth it got into that whelk. But it doesn't matter. Oh, I must ring Rodney again and tell him.
Auntie Patsy sprung up from the table and dashed to the telephone excitedly to share the news. I was just as excited, and so was Lester, and we both simply couldn't believe that we had found the ring after all that time thinking we hadn't. We still don't know how it got into the shell, but we are jolly glad that it did. And so from that day to this, we have been rock pooling plenty of other times. But never were we so happy with our findings than when we discovered we'd found a ring in the rocks. In this episode of Port Galia, we saw William and Lester embark on a search to find their auntie's lost engagement ring. And although at first they thought they'd come out unsuccessful, in the end, their hard searching paid off and the long-lost ring returned to its rightful owner. Which goes to show that if you keep working at something, it's possible to see the results you're hoping for. God tells us the same thing in 2 Chronicles 15:7, which says, "Don't give up, because you will get a reward for your good work." So next time you're trying to achieve something and you feel like giving up, remember what the ring in the whelk represents: to not quit.